Welcome to Life in Calgary, Alberta. I'm your host, Patrick Murray. If you want to know what it's like to eat, sleep, breathe, live, and play in Calgary, Alberta, and you want to know why you should avoid moving to Calgary, Alberta, unless you can handle the 10 facts that I'm going to share with you, then you are in the right place. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that little bell so you get notified every single time I release a new video. All right, guys. So I got to tell you, I've lived here since 2001. I was once new to this city myself. So if you're from out of town, hey, I feel you. But because of my longevity, because I've been here for that long, I do know this town. And not only that, because of the industry I'm in, I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker Mountain Central here in Calgary, Alberta. And I've been a realtor since 2010. I have some unique knowledge about this city. So I know it like the back of my hand. So guys, if you're thinking of moving here, you want some help, my information's below. I help people move here all the time. Feel free to send me a text, send me an email, leave me a voicemail. I will get back to you and I can help you to live your life in Calgary, Alberta. All right, guys, let's get going here. These are this is why you should avoid moving to Calgary, Alberta, unless you can handle the 10 facts that I'm going to share with you here coming up right after this. All right, guys, you should avoid moving to Calgary, Alberta, unless you can handle the 10 facts I'm going to share with you right now. Now, listen up, guys. I've made some notes here, so I am going to refer to them here and there, just so I make sure I'm not missing anything, because I'm going to be brutal. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm going to share everything that you need to know before you move here. All right, let's get started. Oh, man. Number one is transportation. Okay. I've talked about our excellent public transportation system here as far as C-Train goes, which is our light rail transit system, sort of our subway, if you will, and the fact that we have a good bus system here as well. But guys, we've got a huge city in Calgary, Alberta, and even if you do live in some of these suburbs that are fairly self-contained and that you can, they have their own grocery stores, that sort of thing, it's not always the most convenient thing to catch the bus to go to the grocery store, that sort of thing. And of course, the train isn't going to get you there either. The train moves you from community to community and, to the downtown core, that sort of thing. So, you're really going to be dependent on a car in most cases, unless you're hyper local, for example, living in the downtown core or a core neighborhood where you can walk to the downtown to your job if you work down there. You can walk to entertainment. You can walk or take the bus to the grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. But in most cases, yes, you're absolutely going to need a car because we're pretty much a car dependent city. Now, we have winter driving here. Oh, do we have winter driving? I've heard people from Toronto say, you know what, we get winter in Toronto, we get a lot of snow, it's humid and wet, and but I didn't realize there's actually sheets of ice on the road. And yes, we have that here. So if you're not moving from Saskatchewan or Winnipeg, then you know what, you may find our winters pretty harsh here. You definitely want to have winter tires. In fact, I implore you, please, if you move here, please make sure you have winter tires on your car for your safety, for the safety of those around you. So that is a bit of an added expense. Guys, parking in this town is crazy. We have expensive parking. I used to say, because I heard a stat that we had the highest parking in North America next to Manhattan. Good news. I just heard on the news the other day that it's not that high. We're actually third highest in North America. Whoopee! All right. So we've got very expensive parking depending where you are. Now, you can find some areas of town where, you go up to the meter. Hey, it's an hour and a half free score, right? Great. Okay. Other times, might cost you, a buck or two for an hour, but you know what? It can cost you $10 for an hour, that sort of thing too. So parking in Calgary can be very expensive. Be aware that parking in the downtown core, especially if you work downtown, that sort of thing, it's astronomical. $360 a month is not unusual to find a spot to park your car downtown for the month. That's how much it could cost you. So be aware of that. And traffic, guys. You're going to be commuting. We've got a large city here, and if you're living way out in the suburbs, it takes a while to get to where you need to go. So if you're coming from, way up in the north or northwest and you're coming to downtown, it could take you a good 45 minutes or more, depending on traffic, to get to where you need to go. So be aware of that. Pack a lunch, pack some snacks, make sure you got some good music, make sure you had a good night's sleep the night before, because it might take you a little time to get to where you're going. Now, if you come from a larger center like Toronto, Vancouver, and you have a long commute, that might not be so bad for you. But in other cases, if you're coming from Saskatchewan or Winnipeg, I remember when I lived in Regina for a time, and there was a girl I worked with at the hotel. She was talking about, oh, the commute, it was so hard today. Really? How long does it take you to drive? Oh, 5 minutes. What? That's not a commute, okay? So if you're coming from a smaller center, you got to drive 5-10 minutes. Not a big deal. So you might find it a big deal here. So just be aware of that. So transportation is number one on my list. We're car dependent. Number two is construction. Guys, we have a lot of it. So we have 2 seasons here. We have winter and we have construction season. Actually, what am I talking about? We have construction season all year round here. Okay, so here's why. We're a large city, right? So we've got these new neighborhoods coming into play all the time. So always building, always improving the roadways, always doing overpasses, that sort of thing to, develop our city, make sure the infrastructure is keeping up. Then we've got older parts of our city as well, right? So we've got some areas closer to the core. It's got older infrastructure that needs to be updated, water mains, etc., that sort of thing. So they're digging up the roads. Now, something else to be aware of is we get very cold winters, and we get some extreme warming in the winter as well. And this hot and cold is really hard on the roads and that sort of thing. So it seems like there's ever ongoing construction going on in the roads wherever you're going in this town. Be patient. You know what? You'll get to know the city as you live here, and you'll get to find some workarounds in some of those areas. So if you see some construction you need to avoid for a week or two, you'll find it. But just be aware that we have lots of construction. So that's number 2. Number 3, guys, I already kind of alluded to it. Number 3 is Calgary is huge. All right. Now, how huge? Well, we're 840 square kilometers of space in our city. That's how large our city is. It will easily take you, on a good day, an hour to drive from one end of the city to the other. Okay. Now, there's a few reasons why we're so huge. We have something called urban sprawl here. Now, part of that is because we have a lot of people moving here, and we love that. Don't get me wrong. In fact, that's why I'm talking to you today, right? So we have lots of people moving here. Migration's really good. Migration has been the highest in the last year. We had more people move here than we had new citizens due to the baby boom in the 50s. That's how many people we have moving all the time. And that's what's going on in Canada. I mean, we just have a lot of migration, but migration to Calgary is, specifically high. We had, I think, 70,000 people come to Alberta from out of country last year. Fabulous. We love it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But I'm just telling you, that's what's going on. We had 6,800 people from BC come over, I believe it was, and a lot more come from Ontario. So our city's ever expanding, and we need to build more homes, more communities, and there are a lot more new communities going up all the time in our city. But that means we're pushing the boundaries. So that's one reason. The other reason is we have 2 provincial parks within our city borders. So we have one in the north and one in the south. The north is North Hill, and down in the south is Fish Creek. Okay, guys. So I got to tell you, this is great because it's a great place for people to go hiking, go with your pets, whatever, go biking, enjoy the facilities, the amenities there. But they take up space, and you got to get around these spaces because they are in the middle of the city. You can't just drive through them. So that's why, it takes a while to get around. Not to mention our airport is in the city. It's in the northeast, but it takes up a whole bunch of real estate up there. And for that fact, and for that reason, you can't just drive through the airport, right? Yes, we have a tunnel that goes under a runway, that sort of thing. But come on, that's not going to handle all the traffic. So our city is huge. You need to be aware of that. I'm just checking to see if I missed anything. I think that's good. All right. So that's number 3. Calgary is huge. Number 4, you may not know this about our city, but we do get some wildlife here. Now, some people don't run into a lot of wildlife, but there's almost always something on the news about people running into wildlife. And, I've seen it here in my community, and I'm in the inner city. Certainly in the suburbs, closer to some of these provincial parks, or closer to, the outskirts of town. It's not unusual, even in the inner city, to find lynx around. Okay, so lynx are great big cats, right? They could be sitting in a tree, they could have their babies, that sort of thing, be out and about. And that could be dangerous for small animals, that sort of thing. Make sure you have your pets on leash. There's been cougar sightings in the city. That's happened. Now, cougars are extremely stealthy, so chances are, if you see a cougar, that cougar has been watching you for some time. So that's something to be aware of. Less often that happens. But bears, we see, sightings of bears. That happens. They follow the train tracks into the city, or and go through the parks, come into the outskirts. So it's not unusual to hear about bears and Parks and Wildlife having to come in and tranquilize a bear, take them away and move them out so that they don't get injured, that sort of thing. Moose, believe it or not, this is actually something that happens a fair bit. We have moose in our city. Deer, I've seen deer all over the place, lots of places. We have deer in our city. We have rabbits all over the inner city, great big jackrabbits all over the inner city. Coyotes is another big one. We have coyotes around, and even in the inner city, and right now, in the neighboring community, there's a lot of sightings of coyotes right now. Now, guys, you got to use common sense. You can't be approaching these animals. These are wild animals, right? So the coyote, for example, the one that they took a picture of had kind of a mangy tail, and that says that something's going on with this coyote. He's kind of unpredictable. He's not well. He's sick. And so they're dangerous, right? So you got to keep your animals on a leash, got to have your head on a swivel, pay attention. So that's something you may not know about our city. Don't worry, it's not like you're going to run into that every day, but I'm just telling you, you need to be aware. That's number 4. We have some wildlife in the city. Number 5, guys, is the weather. Okay, the weather in Calgary can change quickly. How quickly? You can have all 4 seasons in one day. You could have, especially in the spring, the winter, the fall. Guys, who am I kidding? It can happen in the summertime. Yes, we've had snow in July. I don't think since I've lived here, I don't think so. And if we have, I have eliminated that from my memory. That's a memory I choose not to recall. But I'm just telling you that this happens here. Our weather can fluctuate a fair bit. So we get 4 seasons in one day. We can have really, really hot day, and we can have a really, really cold day. So in the summertime, especially lately, we've had days where we're, 30, 35 degrees in the summer. And in the winter, with the wind chill, it can be minus 40, 45, right? Minus 45. Yes, degrees Celsius. Brr. Okay. So that's something else to be aware of. We get something called Chinooks here, which is kind of cool. Gives us a little break from the winter weather. So these are warm winds coming off the foothills and the mountains, and forms a ridge of cloud over the city and insulates heat in the city. At least that's my best explanation from my meteorological experience, which I have none. So that's all I can tell you about that. So what that can do is we could have a really cold day one day, it could be minus 10, minus 15. I mean, not really cold. I mean, depending where you're from, Saskatchewan, that's a balmy day in the wintertime. But that could be, we could be minus 10 one day, and we could be plus 16 the next because of this Chinook that happens. And you will see people walking around. Now, why I bring that up is because some people are sensitive to changes in the weather and get headaches or migraine headaches. I get them occasionally. My son gets them a little more often than I do. I know people that suffer from them, and I know other people that are completely unaffected by it. But something you should know, we do get some fluctuations in the weather. It can cause headaches. People say it's the pressure system. I've actually heard it's not the pressure. It has something to do with the ions in the air. Again, that's above my pay grade, guys, so I'm not going to go there. Just letting you know this is something you need to be aware of, is the weather. All right. Okay, guys, it's dry here. That is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 on my list. All right. It is dry here. We don't have the same humidity as in, say, Toronto or something like that, right? And we're not in Vancouver where we're close to the water and we get like lots of this nice air coming off. We're a drier climate, even in the wintertime. I would say especially in the wintertime, we're a drier climate because of that cool air out there. So something you need to be aware of is, your skin may feel dry. So especially when you first move here, you're probably going to be swimming in moisturizer all the time. So make sure you moisturize. Hey, it's good for you anyways, guys. I always moisturize my face every day, right? Less so on my body because I'm kind of used to it. My hands, I find every night I need to use a really good moisturizer on my hands at night during the winter times, just because I find they can crack and get dry easily in the winter. So these are things to be aware of. My wife, I know she moisturizes lots. So guys, just make sure you know that when you come here, we're a drier climate, so you're going to be moisturizing a fair bit. And the other thing too, our water here in Calgary is fairly hard as well. So that's something else to be aware of. So when you're washing your hair, you're going to want to use conditioner, that sort of thing, right? All right. That's number 6. Moving on, guys. Number 7. Okay, number 7 has to do with our large class sizes in schools. Now, there's a few reasons for this. I already alluded to the new communities going up, within our city and out in the suburbs, that sort of thing. And wonderful families are moving in there. But some of these communities obviously don't have schools in place because they don't have enough people in those communities at the time. So be aware that your kids may have to bus to other communities to go to school. So that's number 1 to be aware of. Number 2, the class sizes are large because we've got a lot of kids in school. Again, great. We've got this migration. Love it. Welcome, 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 please. Okay, understand that. I'm not down on migration. I'm absolutely for it. But what I am telling you is we have large class sizes. Now, that also comes down to the government of the day. Where are they investing the money? That sort of thing. I know the teachers are frustrated by the class sizes as well. They want to do a great job and they have kids too, right? So they're concerned as well. And being a teacher is a tough job. I get it. I mean, I come from a family of teachers. I've seen that. So I know it's not an easy job and I have total respect for teachers, but just be aware that we have larger class sizes here. So that's something that you want to pay attention to, and you want to do your research with schools and that sort of thing. Guys, we have a lot of hailstorms that happen in Calgary. All right. So there's a few reasons for this. It has to do with, again, the mountains and the foothills and the winds rolling off and the storms coming from there, and kind of the weather systems that churn out as a result of that in the warmer months, summer, fall in particular, that sort of thing. June. So where are we here? So some areas of the city are a little more prone to these than other areas. And I certainly have some contacts in the insurance industry. So if that's a concern for you, let me know and I can contact my contacts and we can kind of figure out, what areas you should be avoiding or if that's a concern for you. Now, this is hit and miss, guys. I mean, you can't predict when we're going to get a hailstorm, but, we can get, every year a little bit of hail, right? We get some hail. It might be small, might not do any damage at all, okay? But other times we can get large hail. We get, dime size, quarter size hail, golf ball size hail. There was a hailstorm in the Northeast a few years back that caused so much damage, holes in people's roofs, broke windows, cars, broke windshields in cars, that sort of thing. So something to be aware of is we do get a lot of hail. So something else is if you have a garden, you want to be paying attention to it. If you got a garden in your yard, we have a little above ground garden in our backyard. And so if the weather's turning or we think it's going to hail, I'm moving patio furniture over top of these garden areas to try to protect those things. Of course, we got nice flowers out, so we're lifting those pots and moving them under. Whoops, sorry guys, moving them under tables and things like that to try to protect them. So your garden, if it gets hit by a hailstorm, it does a lot of damage. It can pretty much decimate it, and boom, you're starting from scratch all over again. So that's something to be aware of. I'm a pretty poor gardener. I think my wife and I'll be the first ones to tell you that. Hey, we're really good at growing lettuce, but other stuff not so good. So, hey, if you're a gardener and you want to help me out, great. I look forward to it as well, guys. But be aware we get some hail. I think that was number 8. Number 9 is you will get a rock chip in your windshield, a potential crack in your windshield, that's just the facts of life living in Calgary. So with our winters, we get extreme cold and we get extreme warm, and those can happen quite quickly. And that thawing process and freezing process is very hard in the roads. The roads break down. You know, you get a little bit of gravel come that way. Not only that, but from the salt and gravel mixture that they spread on the roads, so we're not sliding around, so there's traction in the wintertime. You know, there's a fair bit of gravel, that sort of thing. So when you're driving, for example, on Deerfoot Trail, which is the busiest freeway in all of Alberta, which is in Calgary, you know, some guys flying along could throw a rock and you know, could hit your windshield, and it's scary. It freaks you out. You might curse because it's loud, and you might get a nice dinger there. You'll want to get that filled so it doesn't spread. But other times it can cause a crack. And you know, I've also got a car, but I've also got a Jeep, and my Jeep is very upright. And I think we've replaced the windshield 2 or 3 times since we've had that Jeep, because it's so upright, so it gets a lot of rocks. So that's something to be aware of. You will be repairing, potentially replacing your windshield due to rock chips and cracking due to rocks and stuff being thrown. All right, guys, number 10 on my list. Now, this list is in no specific order, but number 10 is childcare is very expensive here. So, you know what? You may or may not qualify for subsidies. A lot of people don't. I know the government of Canada is working on $10 a day childcare. You know, they're talking in Quebec and Ontario and that sort of thing, making it more affordable. It hasn't reached us yet. So childcare is expensive. So a good accredited childcare will cost you roughly over $1,000 a month per child. I know that's a huge cost. So depending what you do for a living, you may have to make that decision. You know, does it make sense for you to go back to work, especially if you have two incomes? Does it make sense for one of the parents to go back to work when you're paying that much in fees, or do you stay home and look after your kids? So it's a challenge. Childcare is uber expensive here. I don't like it. You know, we managed to be around for our kids. It was a bit of a sacrifice financially, but that's what we had to do, and that's what a lot of families do. So guys, avoid moving to Calgary unless you can handle these 10 facts that I've just shared with you. Now, guys, like I said before, I help a lot of people move here all the time. My information's below. Feel free to reach out with text, email, give me a call. If I don't answer, leave a voicemail. I will get back to you, because I can help you too to start living your life in Calgary, Alberta.